We are now down to the last segment of today's opening ceremony. We are doing the final panel discussion about fintech disruption in digital banking as well as payments. And so we will have 5 panelists for this panel discussion. Okay, as usual, this does not work. Sorry, let me go back here. Okay, so may I invite all the panelists to proceed to the front and yes, and let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. Yeah, so, okay, yes, microphone-wise, so the 2 microphones are there, then Cynthia, do you want to use this instead?
Oh, sure.
Or do you want to use the...
It's okay, I'll use this, then you can have that.
Okay, this is it's on, so you can press that to mute it. So let's make sure they get a seat. I mean, I think they can vary. Does it matter?
Easier for everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, so I'll just give a brief breakdown of their background again. Oh, you can't see me now, so now they can only see the 5 of you. So first up, we have our moderator. So on the right, we have Cynthia, who is the head of product at Tribe. Yep. Then next, we have Cynthia, who was with us in the morning. She is the CEO of Panda Bank, who is also our platinum sponsor for this today's event. No, sorry, for NUS Fintech Month 2023. Then on her left, or on our audience's right, is Shivani, who's the senior partnerships leader at APAC at Thought Machine, followed by Louis, who is on her left, which is the audience's right. And he's the CEO and founder at FOMO Pay, for FOMO Pay, right? FOMO or FOMO? Oh, is FOMO okay? Okay, great. FOMO Pay, so don't miss out on that. And then, of course, last we have Abhijeet, who is the head of open banking and data products for the APAC region at Visa. So with that, let's give them a round of applause. So I guess to Cynthia, you can get the ball rolling, I suppose.
Can everyone hear me? Okay, that sounds good. Yeah. Thanks for coming for the panel. So I'm Cynthia from Tribe. I do ecosystem building at Tribe. And I'd like to start with a round of introductions. So let's make this a bit interesting because we don't have too much time. And maybe when you introduce yourself, you can also talk a bit about where do you see the digital bankings and payment industry in the next 5 years, and do a quick introduction about what you do and maybe your views on this opinion. So maybe we can start with Cynthia on the right end. So we could get the mic first.
Okay, I'm Cynthia I'm CEO of Panda Bank. We are based in Cambodia. So we are a newly set up bank. We just established in 2020. So the what we see is that for the what I see for the future of digital banking and payments is that we will be using a lot of fintech services. So like for example, Panda Bank, we are a big user of fintech as a service. We basically use all the software as a service, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, because we aim to be asset light, and so that we can basically leverage the capabilities and the best in for all the other services. And we think that for the disruption in the payment space is basically the greatest so far. That's what we have seen, especially in the area of cross-border payments.
Thank you. Shivani.
Yeah. Hello, good evening. Thank you for having us. This is Shivani. I lead the partnerships for Asia Pacific at Thought Machine. Thought Machine is a core banking engine that is powered by AI and microservices, and we serve primarily the leading banks of the globe. To the question, where is the future of banking and digital banking and payments headed? In my opinion, there are 2-phased. One is definitely customer obsession. We will see the rise of customer engagement. We will see that customer needs that will be dictating the rise of products and platforms. On the other side, I agree with Cynthia, it will be more of a platform play. The time of reinventing the wheel will be gone. Everybody would be coming with their niche products and their niche USPs, and we will see how partnerships come into play to build the best class services to serve the customer obsession. Thank you.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Louis, the CEO of FOMO Pay. FOMO is a 8 years fintech company in Singapore. We are fully licensed under the MAS, and also we are the first digital payment token licensee in Singapore history, aka the crypto license. All right.
Congrats.
So we provide a one-stop digital payment, digital banking solution to the Web 2 and Web 3. And back to the question from the moderator, do we look at the biggest or most exciting disruptions or new opportunities in the fintech industry? It will be the distributed ledger technology, or what we can put in the Web 3, how we can bridge between the Web 2 and Web 3 world. And that's also, I heard, is a very hottest discussion today at this event, right? And if you are keen to explore more in reality what's happening in the fintech and banking area on the Web 3 world and on the DLT, feel free to reach out to FOMO, which we are the market leader in this industry right now. There are a lot of innovations happening, and we have a lot of interesting projects now using the market. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Abhijeet. I'm part of the regional team at Visa. Been with Visa for many years, 15 years now, in several roles, primarily focusing on payments and digital commerce. Currently, I look after our open banking and data products businesses for Asia Pacific. Very excited to be here and absolutely looking forward to this discussion with my esteemed panelists. In terms of where digital banking and payments is headed, technologists in India use these three terms, presence-less, touchless, and paperless. I think that's a good summary of, what banking experiences will be like in the future. With Web3 now, there are newer terms like permissionless and trustless, but I think what it'll all come down to is taking the complication out of the consumer's life and experiences.
So that's nice. We can touch on that a bit, right? So I think generally making banking painless is kind of helpful. So maybe you can share a bit about how open banking can improve the customer experience or business experiences.
Sure. So maybe we'll start with, what open banking is all about. Traditionally, if you think about it, banking was concentrated with large traditional banks around the world, and then regulators in some markets, specifically in Europe, realized that that's sort of inhibiting in terms of the kind of innovation that is coming about, the kind of creativity. So they came up with this concept of open banking, which basically said that if you want to carry out a banking transaction or consume a financial service, you shouldn't necessarily have to go to your bank. Now, with use of APIs and digital interfaces and smartphones and all of that, you should be able to go to a third party and avail that same service. And that's what open banking does. Basically allows you to access your account, just to see your statement or to conduct a transaction on your bank account without necessarily going to your bank or your bank's interface, by being able to do it on a third-party fintech app or a neobank app. That's what open banking is all about. And if you think about what that will do for the consumers and for the industry, the moment you say that you're going to take away engagement from, or you're going to move touch points away from where they've been, which is the traditional banks, it creates opportunity for a lot more competition, because now a lot more players can bring these same services to you. It also creates opportunity to make things a lot more efficient. If you think about what it took for you to apply for a loan, even now, actually, in many markets, you would have to walk up to a lender with your physical bank statements and a bunch of other documents. With open banking and use of APIs, we're already seeing that in several markets. UK is sort of leading. You're able to just furnish all of your banking data or APIs to whichever third party you're borrowing from. So it makes things a lot more efficient, and therefore brings down cost. And I think last thing, the last large sort of impact that open banking will have is it'll create access. Again, traditionally, banking has been limited by geography and in terms of reach. Open banking, and especially with a lot of new players coming into this space, they're looking at newer ways of delivering these same services, and that will allow a lot more inclusion and therefore create a lot more access.
It definitely sounds like it would really transform my experience.
It should be. It's the next big big trend that we are looking to very closely at Visa.
It's definitely interesting. And I think that kind of touches on the importance of partnerships. So maybe I can move on to maybe Lewis can share a bit about how like FOMO Pay leverages on its partnerships to bring like payment solutions to its customers.
Sure. So when FOMO started, it was funded by three fresh grad from NTU. I graduated from NTU together with two other classmates. We started FOMO 8 years ago. But back then, it was a time when the mobile payment just starts, right? From China, there WeChat Pay. From US, there are Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, which just came into the market. Back then, still people don't believe that mobile payment or this kind of QR payment will become a new mainstream payment behavior because people are used to the card payment, which has been prevalent in the past 60 years. Right, so it's something very new, but it's proven to work and work very well in developing countries like China, India, whereby most of the people, they don't have access to a credit card, right? So, but people are all having a mobile phone, then they also have very good internet. That's why mobile wallets are rising up quickly, especially in Southeast Asia. Then now, after 3 years, maybe in 2018, you can see SGQR. Singapore is the first country to introduce SGQR in the world to unify the QR standard. And then there are many countries who are learning and following right now. Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, they are all introducing their national QR standard. That's how fast it grows in this industry. 3 years from 0%, nobody believe in QR payment in this country. I mean, not saying believe, but not many people who use. And then after 3 years, when in SGQR, you can find it widely adopted in most of the hawker centers, wet market, those areas who do not accept any payment. I mean, who only accept cash in the past 60, 70 years, right? So that is one example of how the fintech technology is transforming our real life. But now everybody, especially probably for the young generation who are listening to this course, you probably are thinking the mobile payment or e-wallet is a new norm. It's something that you are so used to. But trust me, before COVID, just for 2 or 3 years ago, it's still something new. That's why now people call, when we say, oh, we started by doing the QR payment, which used to be a fintech innovation, people are saying, no, you guys are no more fintech or no more, innovative anymore. It's something, just a normal service, which all the bank apps are providing the QR scanning function to enable the Pay Now QR payment right now. So after the QR trend, right, that's why we say open banking and also the buy now, pay later, which became very hot topic starting from, let's say, 2020, 2021. And in 2022, crypto or what we call the digital payment token become another hot topic. You can see the fintech world is changing very fast. There are always new concepts coming out because the technology is growing so fast. But back to equal to your point, I think the user experience and the real value proposition are still the fundamental value, which continue to drive the innovation, because only if you deliver the value by lowering the cost, making it faster, easier, and more convenient, then you can win the market. That's why in terms of FOMO right now, we believe with the 5G or even 6G upcoming, when the communication speed, right, the data communication is evolving, there will be new evolution of payment technology coming out. And that is something which makes us very excited and to continue to build on top. Yeah, that's myself.
Well, thank you. Actually, that was a really interesting history of payments. And this is actually quite good to segue down to Shivani's point. Maybe you can share a bit about how like core banking services has changed over the years also, now that you've also seen how payments have changed so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So while we do talk of the next new cool thing in fintech, we keep talking about QR. But if you ask the first question, would you be comfortable to have your salary credited into your wallet? People still will, have a chilled spine, down their spine. And the word that remains constant across all this cool fintech is banking, because banking has stayed for good and will stay for good. So core banking in this journey has been essentially that spine of banks, wherein, you have a ledger and you have a customer data record that is set straight. and that allows the bank and the banking exterior functions to perform. That said, we changed our ways of messaging. We used to use text messages. Now we use WhatsApp. Now we do video calls over WhatsApp. Gone are the days where we use traditional methods. What didn't happen that fast and in the cooler way was the change of technology for the core banking for the banks. So that's something that we need to understand while I explain what we do and how we do it. So think about it that for your banks to operate, for your customer account profile to be updated, there is a core sitting at the back at the bank, which is primarily using the technology of the 70s and not the latest school technology. Does it come with its own limitations? For sure it does. So for example, if I send a WhatsApp to you, you see the blue tick as soon as you see the message. That's being real time. When you move your money, it will depend on the core of your bank, whether the notification that you get are real time, whether the money is moving real time, or whether or not you are getting the recommendations or seeing your profile activity real time. And that's where the core banking and the cloud native core banking comes into the picture. So the questions that often banks need to ask is, I'm stuck with a legacy infrastructure. You hear the word legacy a lot, and this is giving me a lot of tech debt. I'm stuck. I'm not able to serve my customers, but systems are slow. There's a lot of cost. The talent is running out in the market. What do I do? Well, update your ledger, update your core. And that's where Thought Machine comes into the picture, where we are totally cloud native. You can leverage the cloud flexibility at our core. At the same time, we are API first, microservices first core, which means while you continue to have a cloud native ledger, you can also use the technologies to stream out the information of a customer in real time and plug and play. For open banking, for payments, you can integrate your bank app, integrate your customer profile through these third-party platforms in real time to give your customers the services that they need. For example, if you go to an ATM and if you withdraw an X amount of money, and then the next day you go and take a loan, but you do not have that amount of money, but it's quite possible that the RM of the bank may not be aware of your current profile situation, right? So that's what essentially core banking is. That's what Thought Machine does. And in this way of transforming core banking, our strive is no different than any other players. We are trying to bring banks up to speed with a great technology, with a good performing core, but at the same time also enabling the bank not to just update their core, but entire functionality and performance at the back of a great spine, right? So think about a body with a great spine. You just have so much more flexibility. You just have so much more health appetite to go and explore the world. That's exactly what we are trying to do with our transformational technology. And we aim to enable banks to easily integrate with platform players to go and best serve their customers with the speed of the market so that they are not losing time in updating a legacy technology. I hope that answers.
It's definitely quite interesting to see that so much of our banking is still on 70s technology.
Maybe even older.
Oh, I hope not. Maybe you can talk a bit about the underbanked and share a bit about Cynthia, your experiences bringing banking to like the Cambodia market.
Okay, I think, Cambodia market, most of the customers are young, right? So, so many of them are also establishing their first account, very similar to Singapore as well. And for when it comes to a core banking account, CASA, right? So long time ago, it's called CASA. Why? Because it's current account, savings account. But I think nowadays, for the younger generation, many of you do not really need a checkbook. Gone are the days whereby if you want to make a credit card payment, you have to issue a post-dated checks. I don't think many of you understand, making a post-dated check is, right? So in Cambodia, we're also serving, the younger generation. And we believe that, we are actually building our core. So to be able to serve this younger generation, we feel that, you definitely must be able to open the account instantly and, with as few steps as possible and with very little friction. So when we actually build this core, we are building like something like very similar to a wallet, but it is actually an account that is upgradable. So you will basically be able to open an account just using your very few KYC, right? And if you were to give us more KYC, then we will empower you and give you more features, of the account. So it will make a lot of customers, as long as they download the app, they, give us their mobile number, they will be able to, start it off with a very basic account. And as Shivani has rightfully pointed out, like, would you want to credit your salary into a wallet? Usually no. So what we do is we also think that customers would not want to credit their salary into a account, a basic account that is just linked to their mobile number. So we will basically have a two account for the customer. If you want to use your funds, you can just do a transfer, from your savings account who pays you daily interest, into this basic account. So this is how we feel that, we will be able to encourage customers to be able to save with us, because we're going to give you daily interest. Interest can be credited into your account on a daily basis. Because you're building our own core banking system, we're able to customize, many of the new and more innovative features, that we think that consumer, would like to have.
This is definitely interesting. I think you mentioned that. So Panda Bank is building its own core banking services from scratch.
Yeah.
So,
and we're building on the chain.
So I'm on the chain. Oh, so it's on Web3 kind of payments.
Sorry?
Sorry, as in you're using like Web3 payments or like?
We're building it on Ethereum. I'm not really technical.
Oh,
yeah.
So,
yeah.
So I'm quite curious here also, because I think
it's definitely on the Web3. Yeah.
Just go. That's my background. So. And I'm quite curious in the sense that I think you mentioned a lot of interesting sort of. I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into that, right? Like, I mean, projecting a bit further, assuming that, say, the services are built out, right? Like, what do you think would be the most important like feature that like young Cambodian users would care the most about? Yeah.
I think, when it comes to deposits, right, getting deposits, I think whether it is Cambodian or anywhere around the world, it's all about trust, right? Would I want to credit my funds, especially for a startup bank like Panda Bank? Is it safe to put money with you? Especially, interest rates in Cambodia is actually very high, right? I think for the norm is about 5 to 7%. In fact, Panda Bank pays FD rates of 7.3% in USD. So if you want to, play some funds with us, you can speak to any of us here, right? So I think, of course, when it comes to savers, everybody will want to have a high interest rates, right? And then they want to place it with a safe bank. So how do we actually give a customer, that kind of trust? And the next is, when they want to use the funds, right? They want to make sure that, their account, is not scam. What the authentication, what kind of security, do you have, in your to make payments. So, and if you make it like very complicated, if I need to like wait 12 hours, 4 hours, whatever our number of hours, just to add one payee, that will actually add friction to, to the usage. So learning from the Singapore experience, and that's how we actually create our account. You have a basic account whereby you will be able to do all your spending. And then, you have another account whereby you can earn daily interest. That's how we feel that, we'll be able to balance, security, versus giving customers higher reward in terms of higher interest. And of course, your system must be very stable. Whenever they want to access to your account and they want to pay, they will be able to have access to the funds. I guess maybe in Singapore, we don't have these issues. Most of the bank systems are very reliable, right? If not, then you have to, give a long report to MAS. But of course, in Cambodia, sometimes some of the other banks, their mobile, banking can be down like for a day, and then, you find yourself unable to access, the funds in your account. So if you're talking about, in the specific to Cambodia market, then we say that, it will be, really reliability of the, the mobile banking services that you have, and also giving the customer the security that, the funds are safe with you, and they will be able to transact, securely each and every single time they want to make a payment.
Definitely, I find that's quite important also. And I think maybe we can tap a bit on Shivani's experience here also. I think You shared a bit about like building your banking infrastructure from scratch, and you shared a bit about convincing banks to upgrade and to improve themselves. Maybe you can share a bit on that journey and how it's very different, because I think there's a lot of students here that might want to do like technology consulting or work in fintech. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think just if you see how the generation has evolved, right? There are 2 to 3 things that is attached with technology, why technology is blooming at the rate. One is definitely convenience, right? The amount of convenience that technology is adding to our life is very sticky. It makes you sticky, right? The second is time. For example, I'm not a Gen Z, I belong to a millennial range, but if I have to choose whether I need to stand in a queue for 4 to 5 hours to avail of financial services versus do it at the tap of my fingers on a mobile, I will make that call because time is money and money is time back, right? And last but not the least, it is also about the quick integration, allowing me the choices that I want as a customer, right? This generation wants to make decisions on their own. They want to understand what is my comfort zone, what I like to use. For example, I'm very comfortable using a Grab Pay right now while I'm going to a local hawker center. But at the same time, probably if I'm moving and I'm doing, traveling, and if I'm using cross-border payments, I might just stick to my credit card or probably a Revolut, right? So how does a bank grow in this journey of technology to cater to this spoiled customer of choices, of integration, time and convenience will be of optimum importance. And that will kind of mark a key differentiation in how customers fall in love with their banks in the future. So irrespective of the source of funds, which account do I keep all my money? Am I able to fund my Grab wallet as soon as I need a taxi? Am I able to fund my Revolut or my PayPal as soon as I'm traveling cross-border? Payments come into the picture. At the same time, if I need a loan, am I troubled? Am I having that ease of capital access with the bank that I trust and transact with, where I have shown my loyalty over years? That is going to make a key difference in how the decision-making will happen, in how the customer retention will happen at the banks. So in this journey, I definitely feel while banks have now started digitally transforming, I think almost all banks is looking at their core, looking at, upgrading their technology. I think that the decade has gone where the CIOs and CXOs were still very comfortable. No, our core is just fine. They have realized that, they have to upgrade because there is just no complacency in this competition of fintechs. So that journey has started for good. But at the same time, to enable this journey, what also banks are realizing is that you can make fintechs your allies, or you can, either succumb to them, but there is no going forward with killing each other. Like you have to coexist. Yes, as a bank, I am upgrading my technology, but at the same time, I have an opportunity to either make this fintech, which is doing great, and my ally in the process, right? And that's where partnerships plays a very important role. And I'm sure all of us on this panel today, at some point, are having partners, are looking at ecosystems to do good to our customers, right? So in that trend, I think when you are approaching a career in fintech or you're approaching a job in fintech, you just don't think about it as tech fin, then fintech, right? So look at the technology and how does it transform finance? And then try to find out which area do you think is you want to have that interest in domain experience that you want to, because the universe of fintech is actually just expanding and getting more and more collaborative. So you could be working for a bank, a traditional bank, but would be working on the most cutting edge technology to build up a digital app for that bank. Or at the same time, you could be working in a fintech, in a more cooler startup, but still building a reconciliation engine for that startup, right? So there is no such thing as a traditional and non-traditional these days. It's about where you decide that I want to work, I want to pick this area of technology for this fintech domain, for this financial domain. So that's my takeaway. I've always looked at my engagement in fintech as where I'm best putting my technology to use, and how is it actually impacting the finance world, and is it making a difference in the consumer, in the merchant segment that I'm working at. So try to have that perspective. It gives you more confidence in where you're getting at. Thank you.
It's actually pretty good career advice. And just very briefly, right? I'd like to open up to any questions from students, just very quickly. Are there any questions? Because we're at a 15-minute mark. Oh, yes, please.
So like, for example, like in the West and Europe, but in Southeast Asia, it's so like other finance in Southeast Asia, and what do you think are like the current leading startups that are trying to do?
Sure, that's a great question. And I honestly didn't expect anyone to be interested in open finance, but good to know. I think open banking and open finance develop. Maybe I'll explain the terms a little bit first. So open banking, like I said, has to do with opening up of core banking services. Open finance takes it to the next level and looks to open up not just banking, but other financial services, insurance, investments, etc. And then there's the next level, it's called open data, which takes the same thinking beyond to other industry verticals like telecom, utilities, etc. And basically looks to open up all the services that are currently held very closely with a few incumbents. Now coming to open banking and open finance, the evolution of open banking or open finance for that matter has been primarily driven across the world by regulation. So in most markets, we've seen that open banking has existed in some form or the other, but has really taken off when regulation has come into play. So if you think about Europe or UK, more specifically, the PSD2 regulation is what formalized what was already happening in some shape or form with open banking. There were no standardized APIs, but there were ways in which third parties were connecting to banks already. The US is a slightly different market. There are no regulations, but there are large players like Plaid who have sort of taken an industry-driven approach and had the same effect. Now coming closer to home in Asia, specifically in Southeast Asia, firstly, regulations are still nascent or very early stage in markets like in the last 12 to 18 months. Actually, we've seen open banking regulations coming out in Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Hong Kong was a little earlier. We still don't have open banking regulations here in Singapore, although there are other open API standards, etc., that publish. So regulations by themselves are more recent in our region. That being said, like with other regions, open banking has existed in some form or the other. So even in the markets that I just named, let's take Indonesia, for example. There are a number of players there, and you are asking me about which players. So there are players like Brancus. You've probably heard about them. They were a part of Visa's accelerator program a couple of years ago. There are others that are also operating in the space who are basically providing open banking like services, which is if you are building, say, a personal finance management app and you want a consumer to be able to see their bank balances across 4 banks, you could go to a Brancus and ask for APIs, and they would give you an API that would allow you to let the consumer connect 4 bank accounts to that app. So it's already happening. My view is it will accelerate as these regulations start coming into effect. All of them have different timelines. All of them look a little different from each other as well. But I feel like we're 2 years away, 2-3 years away from open banking really taking off in Southeast Asia.
That's a lot.
Sure.
What is that?
Sure. So firstly, Visa has been a very prominent player in the financial services space for many years now. We are a trusted party when it comes to bringing together various stakeholders in the financial services ecosystem, banks, merchants, fintechs. And we believe there are a few things that need to happen for open banking to really take off. The first is someone needs to create the rails, like to move the data or to move the money. The money movement we already do. To move the data, there are players like Brancus that we are working with. We've acquired a company called Qing in Europe that you may have heard about, that is a prominent open banking player. So we're looking at being the rails that move the data or help move the money. There's a larger role that we see ourselves playing, which is closer to what we've done in payments historically, and that is in creating standards and interoperability. Because of the way open banking is evolving or open finance is evolving around the world, it looks very different. API standards are different. The way you seek consumer consent or the way you authenticate a consumer before you ask them for their data is different. And therefore, there's an opportunity for Visa to create standards to make it very, very consistent. So if you think about it, the way you use your card today in the face-to-face environment or online, it's pretty consistent anywhere you go in the world. And that happens because we've implemented standards and interoperability. So we're looking to do that in open banking as well.
Does that help answer your question? No? Thanks for asking. Are there more questions also? We have like 10 minutes left. We're quite a broad swath of panelists here, actually. You can really ask quite a lot of things. And I think you get a pretty good response too.
Yeah, I think we can afford to actually like end around like Q&A actually at like 4, because we started like about 15 minutes later.
Sure.
Yeah. Let me
Just
just
give everyone a chance to, yeah.
I'll check if there's any online. Is there any?
Oh yeah, there's the Zoom thing.
Yeah. There's also Zoom questions as well. So there's none. Okay.
There's none. Oh, okay.
None.
If not, then I'll continue with my questions. So, okay, if not, then I have a question for Lewis.
Okay,
actually.
there is one actually.
Oh, really?
But it's
Okay.
a pretty technical question. So what technical considerations should fintech companies be aware of when designing user experiences for financial products and services? Yeah.
I think I'll open it to the floor. I can't read because I need to change my cycles actually. Yeah, that sounds quite relevant.
Okay, so for Panda Bank, when we consider the use of the fintech services, we really look at quite a few things. Of course, other than the the user experience, right? Of course, as I explained just now, it has to be as simple as possible. Like just maybe everything will like within 3 steps. It has to be very intuitive, like dummy proof that the customers need not have to ask questions. And the term that you use, has to be very universal. And that because if you're a fintech, you wouldn't just want to sell to one country or a bank in one country. You want to try to be able to scale across multiple countries. So you have to use terms that are as generic as possible and as many people that can understand as possible. But of course, as a bank, when I evaluate a fintech, okay, if you want to set up a fintech, right? You will also want to consider, the jurisdiction, which country should you be establishing, your fintech. Like, for example, we evaluate a lot of fintechs that provide us with cross-border payment services, right? Then we look at, let's say, FOMO. We are FOMO customers, FOMO pay customer, right? So it's like, if we want to do cross-border services, a lot of we have to pre-fund the account. And in Singapore itself, there is a regulation that says that, the account will be is under a custodian account, with an established bank in Singapore, and that they are our funds, as a customer, when we place it with let's say a fintech like FOMO Pay, to be able to do the cross-border transfers for us, it doesn't commingle with their normal operating funds. So for us, is we really look at the jurisdiction. Does a fintech in UK, provide the same kind of protection as compared to a fintech in Singapore or in Hong Kong? Because many of the fintechs that we work with, have offices in UK, in Hong Kong and in Singapore. Then they will always ask us, which company do you want to operate your account, have the partnership with? Right. So, and then of course, the third is, of course, who is actually the profile of the, of the fintech, right? So I think, while it is, I must say that FOMO Pay is one of the very few, very successful, startup that has, that's come from, just 3 graduates, right? But most of the time we do look at who is actually the founder, do they have like the experience, to be able to run and manage, the company well? Because sometimes when we evaluate a fintech, it's not just about your idea, it's also about, the ability to be able to manage a team, the leadership to be able to manage a team, organizing, the resources, and also managing, the funds that you have raised. So these are quite a few key things that we look at, the user experience, the jurisdiction of the fintech, as well as, the founders. Thank you.
If I may add a bit of a product management expertise, definitely inclusion, like whatever you're building, an app, something, it should be easily accessible to all kinds of people, demographics, differentially able people. That's one. That's on the design front. From a technology consideration, also platform compatibility is important. So make sure that if I've done a transaction on my mobile app and if I still open that account on a website, I still have the reconciliation. I still see the same status, right? So platform compatibility is super, super important because it's financial products. So you have to make sure that the regulatory and the compliance requirements are met. So if some countries have a 3DS, make sure that's happening. You're well integrated with the ecosystem. Make sure your 2FAs, your KYC, the KYB processes are matching to the regulatory geography, which means well integrated with the device UDID, the location and stuff, so that you're able to capture where the user is moving, and based on the geographical change of location, you're able to make those changes. Your app is able to shift the changes, right? Most importantly, capturing of PII data. So hosted tokenization is very, very important. Anybody can build a interface to capture cards, but should you do that? No, because you don't have the license, you don't have the rights, right? So make sure you are using those right platforms, integrating to the right kind of partners to capture. Otherwise, you might soon be picked up and put into prison. You don't want to do that. So be innovative, but work in the regulatory and compliance framework to make sure your innovation is meeting the right goals. Thank you.
So this is actually quite timely because I actually wanted to ask Lewis a question, since Cynthia spoke so highly of your products also. I think it's interesting tap a bit about disruption, right? And I think, and you mentioned a bit about like responsible disruption. So could you share a bit about how FOMO Pay kind of like navigates these challenges also?
All right. I just want to say that I was sitting at the same seat, during my uni time. I also took the entrepreneurship course. But at the end of the day, when you really went through this journey, you realize the most important thing is just have the courage to make your first step. In this world, there's no disruption until you prove at the end of the day. So at the very beginning, just example, in the 2015, nobody believed in the QR payment. All right, back then, it's challenged by all the payment company and banks. Nobody believed in that. And that's the only reason we, as a startup company, have the chance to make the presence. In 3 years' time, we become the market leader in this region. It's not because our tech, what we learned 4 years in uni from the engineering school, is so good. It's just because nobody else was doing that, because they don't believe in QR payment. The thing changed when the PM Lee went to China, India, and came back during the National Day rally and say, I'm going to build Singapore as a cashless society. And after that, all the big banks, telecoms, and big tech companies start to develop the wallets, start to develop the QR payment, and it suddenly become a hype. And only because we have been doing that 3 years before the hype comes, and we got the biggest merchant base in the market. It's easy to develop an e-wallet. I would say easy, but as long as you put in the technical resource teams, you are able to develop an e-wallet quite fast. But how to make sure that your e-wallet can be adopted by the market? Because when you have a user side, you need to have a merchant side so that it's a full cycle. And suddenly there are 20, 30 e-wallet came into the market in 2018, 2019. If you look back, GrabPay came in to the market in 2018, Shopee Pay as well, Centel Dash, all came in the same year. 2017 when the Standard Chartered started. Oh, yeah. So it's all that period of time, right? And suddenly the merchant also say, hey, when so many people start to ask whether they can use QR payment because the e-wallet are giving a lot of incentive promotion, then merchants are willing to accept. Then it become a hype. But nobody could forecast this became a disruption when we started in 2015. So I would say even you're young, when you have that kind of inspiration just to try something new and you believe something that is a trend, just have the courage to work on it. There's enough infrastructure, cloud service provider over there to support from all the technical, consideration which you are asking, right? All the cloud providers are giving a full suite support. There are a lot of open banking, the good program from Visa, from the banks and providers. They are having a lot of innovation program to support, but just make the first step. And if you think probably you need to have a little bit more, then join a proven record fintech company, then to learn and then to pursue your own journey. If you are keen to be one of the fintech startup, to have your own, fintech startup journey, join it, learn it, and then you can realize if other people can do it, you can, because right, you are, you get the best education, you get the best cohort here, just find out their team, have the good idea, solve the problem. That's more critical from my perspective. Yeah.
That's actually quite nicely put. I think like the difference between the realm of possibility and the possible is take the first step, right?
That's right. And also just want to add on if time allows.
Sure, yeah.
And yes, when QR becomes thriving, then yes, we manage to get our funding, right? Before that, we cannot get the funding. Then we get the funding when the QR start to grow, good. And there are a few other companies who do the same. Then after that, do you stop? Right? If QR become a new trend, do you stop there? Some companies choose to stop there because, okay, I bet correctly for this one time, I get good funding, then stop there, right? Now they disappear. Why? Because technology continue to change. QR, yes, became a topic trend in 2018, 2019 over there. And later it's changed, right? And now it become infrastructure. Everybody have QR. And if you didn't, continue to, if you are running an e-wallet, if you didn't catch the new trend, let's say a few years back, in the buy now, pay later, you are not there because you cannot continue to raise fund. But if you are buy now, pay later, which was super hot in 2021, look at where you are right now because interest rate has grown up, right? So the funding cost is very high. So the buy now, pay later concept is not that as popular as what happened in 2021. Then 2022, when Singapore introduced the digital payment token, right, back in 2020, under the PSA, that's the beauty of this. It's the first country that introduced such a clear framework to define about the DPT, digital payment token, right? It's not defined as security, it's defined as a payment token. That's why the world-leading Web3 companies are coming to Singapore, queuing in a long line to wait and apply for this license, right? Okay, it's 2020. Then we are the first company to receive this license on the 1st September 2021. Wait for 2 years. Then we start to work on that. We introduced the first crypto payment solution early this year, in 2022. Another hype, good. Everybody started to talk about that. Then in Q3, right, when we see the news, what happened to 3 Arrow, what happened to, right, FTX in November. Suddenly it becomes from the hype, go down to a bear market now, right? But the problem is if you didn't catch the hype, the trend, your solution probably are not meeting the demand by the client, which is by the banking, by the institution world, right? Because when everybody needs that one, you need to be there. But you also need to be looking at the future. Don't stop there. Continue to think what is the future, what is the trend, and with your knowledge, with your technology, right? To continue to be prepared for the future. If you ask me what's the next step, right? I'm an engineering student, right? We believe in whenever the telecommunication continue to grow, evolve, which means it's a data flow, right? From 2G to 3G, 3G to 4G, now 4G is now evolving to 5G. You can see that the money flow is also evolving according to the data flow. When 2G world was a cashless payment, it's a carrier billing. Probably many of us who don't use that one before, you pay to Cynthia, you pay to telecom players by end of the month in order to pay some of the online subscription. That's what happened in 2G world for a ringtone service, right? But the 3G world is the time when the e-commerce start to thrive. You can pay online using the card or using even the prepaid card as well, because the e-commerce start to thrive in early 2000, right? But when it came to the 4G, starting from 2008, when the smartphone, the iPhone was introduced, people start to change their behavior from the laptop to the mobile phone. Now the banking payment requirements are totally different, right? More and more people want to look for the mobile payment. That's why there will be tokenization solution, right? So you don't want to type in your card numbers anymore for every transaction. And you start to have the e-wallet, which actually started from India, from China, like WeChat, Alipay, to store the value on the phone. Then the biometric authentication, you are able to authorize the transaction. You cannot imagine that before, but it only comes when the 4G network start to become prevalent after 2010. 2010 to 2015, that's the fast growing period for the e-wallet, right? And then when it came to the back to your question, it always start from some other region, then maybe 2-3 years lag, right? Then it come to this area because we are catching up. Then in 2017, from 2017, 18, then in every Southeast Asia country, wherever I travel to, there are 10 plus e-wallets in every country. But now, after like 3 to 4 years after COVID, if you go there again, it's still only maybe 2-3 big ones, like, right, previous company will be the main players, right? Because it's a winner takes all game. And that's what happened in 4G. So if you are running a fintech company, you want to do an e-wallet, it's very difficult right now. But does that mean there's no more opportunity? There is, because if you continue to look at this trend, if you don't stop yourself with 4G, which is this technology, when the 5G new telecommunication is coming out, there'll be a new way of payment, right? What does 5G mean? It's 1,000 times faster than the current speed. Okay, I can share some of the thoughts, but we can discuss more later, which we are working on. In the 5G, or it's just a transition period. When it comes to 6G, right? The unmanned, the driving will become relevant. IoT, Internet of Things, will become relevant. What does that mean? It means the people, the person doesn't mean a real person. The person who are using the money is not only a real person. It also includes device. Your device are able to make payment in the world of IoT. For example, you can set up the program for a fridge. If you have less than, let's say 3 cans of beer, less than 5 eggs, it completes the order automatically to the warehouse in, let's say, by fair price. It's happening, right? Your fridge can place the order on behalf of you as long as you program it. You don't need to authorize the transaction. Utility, we are helping some product. Let's say now we are promoting the solar panels. Why people are not doing the solar panel now? Because you can sell some of the extra utility back to the smart grid. You can earn money because one upfront fee is very high. You need to pay $30,000 plus to put it there. Second, you are not making too much, right? $20-30 extra per month. Then people are not feeling the urgency. But what if you can tokenize every watt of the energy that you generate from the solar panel into a token? You are able to see it every watt, then which you can feel the sense. You tokenize some intangible value, which is the electricity, into some token, which you can see it. And as long as this token has value, it can make sense. It will become a new cycle, right? So that is the flow of the new similar token, but it's not by human, it's by the device. But so human device, but it's not enough. There's third new way of what we call to start to use the money. Who is that? Algorithm. The algorithm right now is now the way to spend money. Okay, think about it. I can give you some stats. US dollars, if you look at the, I saw the report, the circulation of US dollars, the index is 3 point something, which means $1 printed is used 3 times, less than 4 times per year. Okay, how about the USDC, which is a stable coin? According to the statistic, is 60 times, which means the 1 USDC is minted, is used by 60 times in terms of circulation for 1 year. But you know, there's another token called the DAI, D-A-I. How many of you have heard about this? D-A-I? Can you show your hand? Okay, cool. I mean, you probably can Google it, right? It's another stable coin. The circulation index is 110 times in 1 year. Compare this with the US dollar, with the paper money, right? But who is the one who really use this? Who will use this $1 circulated for so many times? It's not human being, it's algorithm. It's a quant. If you are interested in this kind of new thing, that they are the one who will buy, sell according to the algorithm, that's a way to contribute to this kind of circulation index. Imagine if the money can be used for 100 times, I can lower my transaction fee, but my revenue can keep the same. That's why more people can use it, right? Because it's not only human beings who are spending the money, it's devices who are going to spend the money, and it's algorithms who are going to spend the money. Think about it. This is the future that we are looking at, and that is what the new technology are able to help us with, right? So if you are keen to involve this, that's where you can start to just try it and then join some company which have this kind of vision, and it will be an exciting journey. So thanks. Yeah.
Thank you for that pitch, actually. Well, so I think we're actually out of time.
Wait, I think we have time for one last question, because there's one question directed to Abhijeet, like directly to him. Yeah. So the question is, what role do you see APIs playing in the future of fintech, particularly in the context of open banking initiatives? Is there anything like interesting that you're looking out for? Haha.
I'll try and make my answer funny. Actually, APIs are, the enabling technology for open banking. The role that they play is to create the connectivity to build a service. And as long as APIs are architected well and they're reliable, there is not much differentiation that you can drive just through APIs, because it ultimately, like I said, it's the technology. It's what you do with the APIs is what is more important. Also, with open banking regulations, APIs themselves are also getting standardized. Regulators are saying, or actually publishing the exact spec that should be used when a bank builds out its open banking APIs. So short answer, there are no differentiated APIs as such when it comes to open banking. APIs need to be well structured and reliable. More important is what you do with those APIs, and goes back a little bit to what I was saying earlier. The companies that are consuming these APIs should be looking at building interesting services with them, making services more efficient, driving more reach. The one thing to think about though is, when you think about open banking, or when you think about APIs, and ties a little bit into the discussion on fintech partnerships earlier, what is happening with open banking is, because regulators are mandating data and payments to be opened up over APIs, there is often no commercial model or economic model around this, which is then leading to a sort of dysfunctional situation in the market, where someone using your API is obviously going to benefit, but the bank publishing the API really has very little incentive to do it. What we are seeing is models where there is almost bilateral arrangements between banks and fintechs using open banking APIs to provide very specific services that are taking off and are also leading to commercial success. We're seeing this happen in Japan. We see it happen here in Singapore. One of the reasons why there isn't open banking regulation here is because there is active collaboration between fintechs and banks, and that's on the back of viable commercial models. So as you think about open banking or open APIs, I think more important to think what is more important to think about is there a commercial model around it, and if there is, then the APIs are there. The money that is to be made is actually in the services that you bring to consumers.
I think, yeah, anyone has anything to add on?
Well, if not, then thank you so much, everybody. I think we covered quite a broad swath of topics, actually, even from like the unbanked, open banking, core banking, and also the future of fintech. And so thank you so much for coming, and I hope you had a good time. And I hope to see you at more events at NUS Fintech Month. Thank you, and have a good Friday.
So, yeah, so just like our first two panel discussions, we would like to, give a token of our appreciation to all our panelists today. Oh, and also a special shout out to our sponsors, Panda Bank, Thought Machine, and Visa. So thank you for sponsoring NUS Fintech Month 2023. Yes, and I think we'll see you for future, workshops as well as the demo day. So catch you then. Yeah. So with that, while they are taking the token of appreciation photos, we will be having a quick closing address. It's just less than 3 minutes. So let's give a round of applause for our panelists once again. So, and thank you for the online participants as well for tuning in online. Must have been very visually exhausting staring at the screen. Yeah. So I'll keep the closing address short. Once again, thank you everyone here today for taking the time out to join us. And we hope that you took something away with respect to knowledge about the fintech space. So right here, this is our upcoming activities. So if you aren't following us on Instagram already, that's our main social media channel. Please do follow us. It's at I didn't put the handle here. It's at NUS Fintech. Right? That's right. Yeah, at NUS Fintech. So we are gonna start on our NUS Fintech Month bingo soon. How it works is that there'll be 6 tasks for you to do. So you just need to complete the lines. And the more lines you complete, then the more chances you get to qualify for our lucky draw. We'll announce the prizes on a later date. I think later on, once it's been finalized and approved. Then on our right, this is the website. Our website is www.nusfintechmonth.com. Over here, these are basically the details on all the activities as well as the relevant dates, details, and of course, there's a weekly quiz as well. The weekly quiz pertains to the workshops that we are conducting over the next 1 to 2 weeks. Correct, because the third week is our demonstration day, and that kind of concludes the end of January, which is quite fast actually. Time really flies. Yeah. So with that, this is a QR code to a feedback form. So we will appreciate it if you could, scan and let us know how you felt about today's event, ways that we could improve, and perhaps for next year, what would you like to see more of for both, of course, our sponsors, as well as our participants, as well as panelists. Yeah, so this will be really helpful. And with that, that's the end of today's opening ceremony. Thank you very much.